Here, and I'm back today to talk to you guys about Gone with the Wind, which I started towards the end of August, and I finished it about a week ago, maybe a little bit less. Hopefully I didn't just dip out of frame right there, but whatever. So if you don't know, Gone with the Wind was written by Margaret Mitchell back in 1936, and it tells the story of Scarlett O'Hara and her journey from before the war, all the crazy and terrible things that happened during the war, and how that affects her life after the war. And I have to say that my biggest issue with the book, there we go. My biggest issue with the book was, one, its depiction of black people, and two, just some minor things that I can get to later. So the bulk of this video is probably going to be me complaining about black people and how they were treated by Margaret Mitchell. And I want to address two things right off the bat. Yes, I know that Gone with the Yes, I know that Gone with the Wind was written in 1936 by a white woman who was born and raised in the South. I got that. I understand. 1936? Not a good year for, championing black rights. Yes, I know that Gone with the Wind takes place before slavery was abolished and ends after slavery was abolished. However, I also know that Gone with the Wind was incredibly feminist. And I'm not a historian, so I can't speak to, the complete historical accuracy. But I have a feeling that most women in the South after the Civil War were not running businesses like Scarlett was running businesses. And maybe they were, and I'm just not educated on that fact. And in that case, I completely admit that I'm ignorant to that. It's completely possible, not gonna lie. But, I don't think that it was that historically accurate in that sense. And furthermore, the way that the black people are depicted in Gone with the Wind is just terrible. For beginning off, Margaret Mitchell paints this picture that, one, white people never abused their slaves. Two, that all white people in the South loved their slaves unconditionally and considered them part of the family. Three, that they were only in slavery because they were stupid and inept, and they could not fend for themselves or take care of themselves, and they needed white people to do it for them. And for the first few hours I was listening to this audiobook, I was like, maybe this is just satire, and maybe this is her commenting on how stupid slavery is, because she just described Scarlett O'Hara as being stupid and the Tarleton twins as being stupid, and they're being glorified for their stupidity, but these ignorant black people aren't. They're just being condemned to all hell. Maybe this is Margaret Mitchell commenting on this because Scarlett O'Hara is a pretty feminist character, so maybe Margaret Mitchell is just incredibly progressive. Sadly, I came to the conclusion that's not the case, that Margaret Mitchell is just a racist who really believed in feminism, and that's okay, because not all progressive people are progressive in all areas. So, you shouldn't be a racist, because you're just stupid if you're a racist. But people have read this book, and it's been a while since I finished reading it, and so I've been reading people's reviews and looking at things to just understand where people are coming from when they review Gone with the Wind. And some people take Gone with the Wind at its word, because when we are taught the Civil War, we're taught it from the northern point of view of the South seceded, and then the North fought them, and we became a union again, and slavery was abolished because it was a terrible thing. That's what you're taught, and that's what you should be taught, because Gone with the Wind and its pseudo reasoning behind the South leaving the Union is just terrible, because it's the racist position of, the Civil War wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights. And if you say that, you're an idiot, because yes, it, I guess, in a sense, was about states' rights, but it was about the state choosing to keep people enslaved instead of recognizing that, hey, those are people, they're not objects to be owned and traded like a fucking chair. So maybe we shouldn't do that. And then for the whole book, the South blames the North for the war when the South started it. It would be like me punching someone in the face and then getting beat up and yelling at them for starting a fight. Like, it was just stupid. But the people who read Gone with the Wind and go, oh, that stuff about slave brutality, like, that was just Northern propaganda to start the war. And I'm listening to those people review the book, and I'm like, you, sir, are an idiot. But that's not the point. The point is that Margaret Mitchell frames the South in this lens that it's frustrating because there are documented cases of people being terrible to their slaves, and the Civil War was about slavery. Whoever wants to do otherwise, I don't care to talk to those people. And every white person is just sort of like, we would never attack our slaves, but it's like, maybe you wouldn't, but it's not representative of all white people, and then it's made out to be like all white people are like this. And it was just frustrating for me to read, and it was just, as the book went on, it sort of got worse and worse, and everyone that Scarlett knew, like literally all the men Scarlett knew, were somehow involved in the KKK after the war. And it was just, it was glorified and glamorized, like it was a great thing to be a part of. And if it wasn't for the writing, which I found to be great, and the imagery with the red symbolizing the destruction of the South as she knew it, and then the green being like the rebuilding, and it was just, the scenery and the clothing descriptions were just on point. And Melanie Wilkes, who was really sort of problematic, especially since she was all for the KKK, like she was like gung-ho about it, and it was bad. But the description of the characters was A+, like descriptions were A+, the characters I did care for. It was a little bit hard because, like I said, these are racist people, and to be honest, none of them really come off as 100% likable to me and as 100% relatable, because I'm not a white person in the South being racist, but I enjoyed hearing their story, and I'm not gonna cut it off for that. So, I mean, yeah. So, I just want to harp on one last thing before I go, and that's Scarlett O'Hara. She's sort of like the bone of contention when it comes to Gone with the Wind, I feel. Like, people really like Scarlett O'Hara or they really don't. And I can understand why, but I have one issue with people who say they don't like Scarlett O'Hara, but they like another character in the book named Rhett Butler, because Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler are the same person. And it's made very clear in the novel that Margaret Mitchell intended for them to be sort of mirroring one another. Like, one, like, this is, Scarlett is the woman, and then, you know, Rhett is the man, and they're sort of the same. And people say, oh, I really like Rhett Butler, and he's amazing and swoon-worthy, and I want to have sex with him, which is totally problematic, because he, on several occasions, threatened to abuse his wife and rape his wife, and he was like, a good lashing would do you good, and talking about how you can lock the door if you want to, but if I want you, I'm going to have you. Like, terribly problematic. And even though Margaret Mitchell spends like literally the last chapter or 2 chapters of her book trying to clean that up and going, oh, he was doing that because he loved her. No. If you're in a relationship and someone is threatening to rape you, you need to get out of that relationship. If you're in a relationship and someone is constantly threatening to do bodily harm to you in any fashion, not like rape, but like if they're threatening to whip you, or talking about how, oh, you deserve to get knocked around a little bit, maybe that'd help you out. Like, you need to get out of that. You need to call someone, you need to talk to somebody, you need to get out of that relationship. Like, no. Rhett Butler is not swoon-worthy, he's not attractive, do not be attracted to him, he's a terrible individual, and maybe at some point I'll make a video talking about him. I probably won't, but we can have a conversation in the comment section, because Rhett Butler is not, no, just stop. Do not be attracted to that person. But whatever. In most ways, he and Scarlett are very similar. Like, Scarlett is not really abusive or anything, but they're very similar people. And so for people to be like, oh, I like Rhett, but I don't like Scarlett, is just, to me, twinges of misogyny, just it feels like that to me, because there's really not too much different between them, besides she doesn't threaten to hurt people and stuff. So those people I don't understand. People who say they don't like Scarlet but they like Rhett, I'll never get that. My favorite character in the book was Melanie Wilkes, who was the wife of Ashley Wilkes, who was related to, not like related, but he and Scarlet were neighbors, and Scarlet did have a thing for him that sort of goes on for most of the book, so you just have to deal with that. But Melanie was a very strong character in my opinion. She's very similar, I think, to Sansa Stark from A Song of Ice and Fire. If you like Sansa, I think you'll really like Melanie. They both have an inner strength that's quiet and strong, but they both are very womanly in the traditional sense of the word, where they're, at least as far as I've gotten to in A Song of Ice and Fire, Sansa is still this way. Can't speak to past book 2. But they're both they have a quiet strength, and they're both very rooted in tradition and rooted in a self-preservation that's more womanly, I want to say, which sounds sexist of me, but I mean in the traditional sense of the word. So I really liked Melanie. I thought she was a really great character, even if Scarlet was stupid to her most of the book. Because I'm just going to be honest here, I don't think Scarlet would have gotten to where she did if it wasn't for Melanie Wilkes. So they have a really interesting dynamic that I don't want to talk too much about, but again, I'm always down in the comment section below. We can do it. We can have these more fun spoilery topics. At the end of the day, I gave Gone with the Wind 4 out of 5 stars, not so much for enjoyment because it was incredibly racist and it was sort of painful to get through, but for the writing, even though it was at points awkwardly paced and things sort of just either lingered too long in my opinion, or we skipped ahead and I didn't get enough of something. It was really weird in its pacing, but the descriptions were just great, and I really felt connected to this world that Margaret Mitchell was trying to build up, that it was pseudo-historical in the sense, because like I said, the black people were just terribly represented, and I'm not going to give her a pass for the time she was writing in or the time she was depicting, because Scarlett O'Hara was such a strong female character. And so yeah, that's my thoughts on the book. If you've read Gone with the Wind, make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you haven't read Gone with the Wind, do you want to? Let me know down in the comments below. And I'll see you guys again real soon with another video. Bye.